So we'll have our second experience, West Ham United, of playing a Premier League game straight off of the back of a Europa League fixture on the Thursday. We conducted ourselves pretty well against Manchester United first time around in the league. I know we lost the game, but we played really well. You couldn't see any signs of fatigue from the away win in Dinamo Zagreb that came on the Thursday before. Well, this Sunday we'll have to test ourselves again when Brentford visit the London Stadium for the first time ever for Sunday afternoons, 2:00 kickoff. That will come off the back of the Rapid Vienna home game in the Europa League on Thursday night. Fingers crossed the lack of travelling will play into West Ham's hands a little bit more. But I'm delighted to say that joining us for this week's Opposition View is Billy Grant, podcast and blogger for the Beesotted podcast and blog platform. Billy, it's brilliant to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us. Brentford have started the season absolutely fantastically. 9th place in the Premier League at the moment. Lost just one of your 6 games, 9 points on the board, and a thrilling 3-3 draw with Liverpool last time out. And you've already taken Arsenal's scalp. Not that that is as impressive as it once was, but it's brilliant to have you with us tonight, Billy. How have you made, or what have you made of Brentford's season so far, and how are you feeling about it?
I'm all good. Listen, first of all, thanks very much for inviting me on. Very, very pleased to be on air on the West Ham Premier League podcast. I have to say Premier League every time I come on one of these podcasts because it's a bit surreal, Brentford being in the Premier League. The last time that we played you, oh my God, the last time that we played you was 1993. And we played you twice home and away because we were in the same league. You went down to division I don't know what it's called then, but the championship as it is now. You went down to then, and we went up to that division just for 1 year, and I missed both the matches. I was a bit gutted, actually. Yeah, I missed both the matches. One of them, I can't remember what I was doing, but I remember Brentford fans played West Ham fans, like Beesotted, as we are. I mean, we've been going that long. We've been going literally since 1990, and we played the West Ham fans in like the stadium, I think, where your reserves used to play. And I think we got tonked 6-0 or something like that. That I normally play in goal, but somebody else had to play in my place, and he didn't have any boots. He sort of turned up with his sort of kind of Wellington boots or something like that. So and it was like absolutely sloshing with rain. So that didn't really go down too well. We got beaten. And then on the return game as well, I think it's in April, I think it was, and I was over. My parents live in America, so I was with my parents in America. So I missed that. And you beat us there as well, if I remember rightly. Then we got relegated a few weeks later, so it was a pretty rubbish season for us, actually. So which is all good. So hopefully we're going to do I'd say this. I'd hope we're going to do a little bit better in the 2 games that we play you this time than we did then. It's been a good start though. I mean, you come back to talking about our season and how we've started the Premier League. Obviously, I'm going to say that. Look, I'm not going to say we're just happy to be here because we've obviously earned to be here. And if you lose 9 if you lose 9 playoffs, you think at some stage that you're never going to actually get promoted. But eventually we have got there, and we've got a great team. And but we just had no idea how we would fit in the Premier League. We really had no idea at all, because listen, we might be great in the Championship, we might beat all these teams and know how to negate them, but literally when it came to that Arsenal game, I didn't know where we sat with them. I didn't know if we were better or not better. Last season, we got to the semi-final of the League Cup, so maybe that with our B team, pretty much that was. So maybe that was a barometer of kind of where we may or may not sit in this league. But I think that the football that we play probably suits the Premier League better than it does the Championship, because just because it's the Championship. 1 minute you're beating Derby County, or you're beating Aston Villa if they're up there at the top, and then you're losing to Birmingham City or Rotherham down the bottom, So it's a funny league. But no, I'm delighted by our start, and I think the thing I'm most delighted about is the fact that we've seen a lot of our players who are Championship players, who are actually they've stepped up, and that we bought them sort of kind of Premier League ready, or got them Premier League ready, but we weren't sure whether or not they would be. And seeing the way that they've actually kind of tackled, okay, there's only been 5 games so far. I'm thinking, tell you something, you are ready for this division. Okay, you've got a lot to learn, and yeah, it's been exciting. So I'm really looking forward to Sunday's game. I wasn't looking forward to it a couple of weeks ago, but I am now.
Are you going, Billy?
I haven't missed a game this season. Me and my daughter haven't missed a game home and away. You know, go home and away to every game. So yeah, we're going to be there. We decided to pick upper tier seats just because you got the safe standing, and obviously we had standing in terraces at Brentford. I never sat at Brentford, you know, in the 40 odd years that I went there. So we got the safe standing and the upper tier, but I've told them you need to bring your binoculars as well. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going out on Saturday morning to go and buy a pair of binoculars as well to make sure I can see the pitch, but still looking forward to it. So it's all good.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. Good. So you mentioned obviously the London Stadium. Fortunate enough to get down to the Brentford Community Stadium for the pre-season friendly we played against you a few weeks ago, and an absolutely brilliant time. We obviously won the game. Saeed Benrahma scored against his old club. Obviously a friendly, so it didn't matter too much. The stadium is absolutely brilliant. Obviously sort of having fans in there for the first time in the Premier League ended up making it quite nice and romantic. What have you made of the new ground so far?
Tell you what, you know, and I'm going to be honest, is as we've just like, okay, you know the similarities. You were at the, as you call it, the bowling, you know, Upton Park, as we all know it at. You were there for years, and there's a uniqueness about it. You know, it's all a bit battered about, like, you know, but you know, it had a feel to it, and it was your home, and
Character.
a lot of the character, and a lot of people turn around to you and they'll say, oh, actually, well, you know, you're just stuck in the past. You need to move with the future and all this kind of stuff. And it's got nothing to do with that. I think it's got to do more with the fact that as you start going around the country to these other newer stadia, a lot of them don't have that character or that feel, and they're sort of kind of, you know, and you're worried that your stadium, which, you know, like say West Ham Stadium, had a vibe to it. You know, I went to Upton Park, and you know, listen, if cauldronous as it is, like, you know, in certain games, so other teams would come down there and they'd be scared to come down just because the fans create such an atmosphere in that place. So you're getting to get worried, obviously, if you move to another stadium, that it doesn't have that same kind of atmosphere. And we were very worried about that when we moved. And so luckily for us, you know, we're Beesotted, which we're a fanzine, we're a blog, but, you know, we've been going for so long, you know, we've got good relation, you know, like everyone knows us. So we can, you know, call the owner, we can call the, you know, the CEO, we can call the you know, we had the two directors of football down the pub a couple of months ago, you know, and recorded them for a podcast with 60 people just drinking, you know, just call them up. So, you know, we got that kind of vibe, which we're lucky with. And we said to them, look, we're a bit concerned about this move, you know, because for us, what's the most important thing is that we retain the atmosphere, we retain the vibe, we stand behind the goal. So we want to have a standing area. No standing's not really allowed. We need to kind of get all these things into place. And to be fair, like for 2 or 3 years, the club was having loads of meetings with fans about different things to ensure that we were comfortable with it, you know. So they ended up giving us a standing area, which is the West Stand behind the goal. So even though it's sitting, really, it's a standing area. You know, they made sure that the acoustics was right, the roof was low. They put certain people in certain areas, you know, everything like that. So, you know, when it came to, there's a couple of games, test games last season, which were only 1 or 2 because of 1 or 2,000 because of COVID. Those didn't really count. You know, I went to them and you've got a feel for the place, you've got to look for the place. But it was when we went to the playoff semi-final. We played Bournemouth. We were 1-0 down after the first leg. So we come back, and luckily they said, right, fans back in the stadium, really excited. Can you imagine? Like, I was like, oh my God, we're back in the stadium now. Playoff semi-final. We've already lost 9 playoff semi-finals. We need to make sure we go in that stadium and make sure we roar them, like, you know, to a victory. So like we turn up in the pub, like we were honestly, like I said, the day was written off. Again, you know, everyone turned up in the pub. We were there from time. The atmosphere in the pub was great. Walk down the street, new walk to the stadium, like, you know, it's not the old one, you know, 5 minutes. It's like 15-minute walk under the M4 to the stadium. We walked over the bridge. We got into the stadium 40 minutes early, which is it's about 38 minutes earlier than we normally get into the stadium. And we got in there, and then Thomas Frank was walking around, as you probably saw around. He was like just getting the fans and sort of getting them going. And the place, we roared the place to death. We went 2-0, 1-0 down. So we were 2-0 down on aggregate. But when that second goal went in, everybody, you know, the goal went in, everyone, the whole place just went off. Only 4,500 against that Bournemouth. It sounded like 50,000. And we ended up winning 3-1 that game. And it was, honestly, it was one of the best games I've ever been to. And that includes the playoff final that we beat Swansea, you know, at Wembley and everything. It was unbelievable. And at that stage, I thought, tell you what, this stadium is going to be all right, you know. to us to make that noise. And then that Arsenal game, you heard the noise we made in the stadium again was wicked. That Liverpool game again, we do the Hey Jude, which is, from when I first went to Brentford, I used to bunk over the turnstiles when I was like, a wee nipper, and you walked in the stadium and then the whole stadium's doing Hey Jude, scarves out and everything like that. They brought that back again. So to get that vibe, I'm thinking, listen, I'm feeling this stadium. It might be new, and there's obviously negatives about new stadiums, but there's also a lot of positives. And at least we've got the noise, and we've got, a big bank of fans behind the goal making noise. So for me, that stadium is good. And it's good for away fans as well. I mean, I'm not a big fan of away fans in the corner, I have to admit, because I think that, I think they should be behind the goal, because I just think that away fans behind the goal making noise, it kind of stirs on the home supporters, and I just think that's what football's about. If I'm an away fan, I like to be behind the goal. So I believe that if we're going to somebody else's ground, we should treat them the same way as we treat them. That's just how, that's me. That's just the way that I feel.
You wait till you get to the London Stadium, Billy.
Yeah, no, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard about that. Well, I'm in the upper tier, I know. But listen, the away fans seem to enjoy it as well in the corner there. The Liverpool fans were making, noise when they scored their 3 goals. So listen, as long as everyone's happy, and listen, at the end of the day, we haven't been at football for nearly 2 years. So for us to be back in the stadiums and just seeing our sports, seeing our teams doing well or even not so well, I think that's the main thing, and that's what's made me really, really happy.
Looking forward to Sunday's game, Billy. What should we expect from Brentford? Should we expect the way you played on? I watched your game Saturday and I was quite impressed with you. Will you set up the same way you do at home as you will away, or will it be a bit more tighter at the back because of the way we sort of play our attacking football on the break?
I mean, I think the setup is going to be the same. We've gone 3 at the back, stroke 5 at the back, just whichever way you want to describe it. That's the way that we played. We flipped. We were 4-3-3. We were 4 at the back before, 4-3-3. But then we had a few problems towards the back end of last season, the middle of the back end of last season, because we had a few injuries, and the players that we had didn't quite kind of go with that, and we were leaking a few goals here and there. So we flipped it to 3-5 at the back, and then in the summer we bought this defender called Aya, who you saw on Saturday. He's the one that sort of kind of the ball. He scooped the ball out of that should have gone in the back of the net very sort of fairly early on the game. As Salah he should have scored basically, and he made an unbelievable recovery. We bought him for Celtic for 13.5 mil, who's our record signing, and he has been unbelievable. He is a ball playing centre back. He seems to find himself more in the opposition penalty area than his own penalty area, but he's brilliant. So he has helped to solidify that back 3/5 and allowed our wing backs to do what they do. So you playing your attacking football as well, it's going to be quite interesting with our wing back thing that's going on, which is something that I've seen that West Ham again. We're quite a statty side, as you know. That's where our history comes from. We're proud of it. People might laugh, say it's a load of rubbish, but Brentford wouldn't be here if it wasn't for stats. Our owner, he owns a stats company. He used that to find players that people have never heard of, like Saeed Ben Rama, and buy them for not very much money, and then we end up having to sell them because we can't keep hold of them. But that's what's made us where we are now, and so us fans are kind of like a little bit kind of looped into the whole stats thing. If you check out the podcast Pride of West London, we've got quite a few pods on there. We've got statty people on there. In fact, I've just interviewed Martin Allen, who's one of your boys as well, but he's also one of ours because we managed him. So I've just interviewed him about half an hour ago for our podcast, which will be out on Wednesday on Pride of West London. Thursday morning actually be out. We're down the pub on Wednesday to record that because we always record our podcast down the pub. But using the stats, we're looking at that and we're thinking West Ham on, how, if you can hit them on the break, because you've seen we're quite rapid on the break. So if we can actually hit you on the break, it could be a game of us trying to hit each other off the break. And the one thing that I think we need to try and do less is give the ball away, because the one thing that we've had a bit of a problem with, I think, is just needlessly in the last few games giving the ball away. The first few games we were quite tight. Aston Villa game was 1-1, the Crystal Palace game 0-0. We were pretty good in kind of holding on to the ball, but the last couple of games we've been a little bit loose in holding on to the ball. So great on the break. Our defence has been really, really excellent and really tight. We just need to watch you, because you've got Antonio up front, man. He's a beast of a player. He's a great player, and we need to be on the ball, or else he can cause us all sorts of problems.
Billy, before I go on, I just want to say that I'm delighted that Brentford have finally got their way into the Premier League. I've actually got a soft spot for Brentford after a Football Manager save about 5 years ago where I got bought out by the Chinese as a Brentford manager. We went on and won about 8 Champions Leagues in a row, 10 Premier League titles. I think I made it into like the year 2050. And weirdly enough, I signed Christopher Ayer from Celtic, and he became a Brentford legend. 400 appearances, played most of the time in holding midfield, but still Brentford legend. So maybe that's a sign of things to come, mate.
Yeah, mate. That's right.
But I mean, as we all know, Ben Rama's now a West Ham player. We tried signing Ivan Toney in the past, but and you've already mentioned the stats side of things at Brentford, which I really like. But who's the next player? No, it's not for everyone, Will. But who's the next one that you see coming through that that Brentford have signed that think he could reach the similar level that the likes of Ben Rama's reached, maybe Ollie Watkins as well?
I mean, it's difficult because obviously when you talk about Ben Rama, Ollie Watkins, they're all forward players, and they get a lot of plaudits. You see, and this is the thing where it's difficult. Whereas players who don't get as much plaudits might playing in different positions. So, say for example, Vitaly Janelt. Okay, I think he's number 27. He's our central midfielder. Again, you see him. He scored the second goal actually on Saturday against Liverpool. He's brilliant, right? He came in place of Norgard. So Christian Norgard got injured last season. Christian Norgard, brilliant. Defensive midfielder. Okay, we signed him from Denmark. Obviously, we've got a very, very, very good scouting system in Denmark. So we signed him from Denmark, and he was meant to be the sort of mainstay where we almost like were building a team around him last season. He got injured very early on. And as a result of that, because we're like, oh my God, what do we do without Norgard? We tried different combinations. We dropped down to 18th last season. So it's quite amazing that we actually got to the playoffs eventually anyway, because we had a really terrible start. Then out of the blue, we bought this player from Bochum, and it was almost like one of those signings that just wasn't announced. Almost suddenly, he sort of just turned up on the day. We're like, who's he? And he's just like, he's some guy play. We got someone, but where's he going to play? And then he played against Benson Norgard, and like within a couple of matches, he was just mustard. And he's a type of player that football fans really love, where he gets stuck in. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's tracking players down. He's running left and right. He's passing. He's just doing everything. He's a proper man machine. And 2 or 3 months in, he was just, everyone loved him. And he only cost 500 grand, so obviously he's got his own song about only costing 10p and all that. And so when Norgard came back, we weren't sure what was going to happen. We were thinking, well, I mean, I like Norgard, but where's he going to go? But they've managed to slot the two of them in the side. And sometimes they play side by side. Sometimes he goes a little bit further up the pitch, but he's a great player. You've got him, Christopher Ayer as well. I think he's a quality player. And he's come through. A lot of people will say, well, he's not. Stats, anyone would have known him, but again, just like Ivan Toney, teams say that they could have signed them, but why aren't they there? It's easy to say when they scored 30 goals in the Championship to say, oh, we could have signed that player, but principle, any Premier League team could have signed Ivan Toney at the time because he was looking for a Premier League move, but it didn't happen, and he ended up coming to Brentford. So again, I know a lot of people kind of knock and have a laugh at that, the stats thing. And the thing is, we laugh about it as well. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on your podcast, but no, they're not Nottingham Forest fans. Hey, no, we won't.
Definitely not.
No, we've got a. It's quite funny because Nottingham Forest fans, we had a little beef with them because we played them a couple of seasons ago, and we were just on the edge of the playoffs. We were both on the edge of the playoffs, vying at each other. But according to the stats, they're where they are in the whole stats world, in the Benham world, as we call it. They were probably like sort of kind of mid-table or even below mid-table, which basically means to say that every shot that they had, they were creating chances, but literally every shot they had was going back to the net, which is great. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But they weren't creating lots and lots of really good high quality chances. Whereas Brentford always the difference in the Championship, because we used to create millions of chances and couldn't convert half of them. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh no, probably like you see Maupay now, who plays for Brighton. I mean, he was a typical Brentford player. You see him, he has like about 15 shots listed on the 6-yard line, and only 2 of them go in the back of the net. Like, so that's so Brentford. Like, so we were like going, technically, if we had more money, we would buy a player like Antonio or something like that. And those chances that we're creating anyway, bang, they would have put them in the back of the net. So that's kind of how it goes. But the Forest fans weren't having it at all. So they started to call us spreadsheet winkers, I was going to say, as you probably know as well. So that became the sort of the beef between us and them. So what we decided on our podcast, like I said to you, Beesoted Pride of West London, we've actually got a little section called the spreadsheet winker. And we got this guy, Will, that comes on and he just does this little 2-minute little stat section where he reads the stats from the games, the game before, looking at the game in front. And it's actually quite a good little section because what it does, it gives you an idea as to kind of where the teams lie. But we just sort of kind of take these, what I'm saying is we take these things on the nose, and because we're Brentford and we're so used to people taking the pee out of us, we just sort of turn it on its head. So yes, we are spreadsheet winkers and we're quite proud of it because it's got us to where we are at the moment now. And it really does. And we actually understand it quite a lot because the owner has sort of schooled us in it for 5 or 6 or 7 years. And if you sit with him and he'll tell you, he'll say to you, black or white, this is what's going to happen. This is what's not going to happen. I'm putting money in here because of, and he'll look at the numbers and he'll put money in, or he'll say, tell you what, this year I'm not going to, because we've only got 10% or 8% chance of actually going up. I'm going to save that money for next season and I'll double it or triple it or whatever like that. But the reasonings are all very, very sensible. So the time that we were actually looking like we were going to go up, he turned around, he said, I'm not being funny, but look, we're there now. We're 60, 70% or whatever it may be. Basically the team, the players, the mentality, everything like that. We're going to go. So I'll put some more money in here. We'll do this here. We'll do that. We'll all go for it. And that's why we ended up keeping Ollie Watkins for an extra season. That's why we ended up keeping Ben Rama for an extra season. That's why he ended up convincing a lot of players to stay, because he said, we're there now. In my world, we're there. I don't want you guys to leave. Stay for another season. Get us up. If we go up, then you can stay with us in the Premier League. If we don't go up, then I'll sell you. I'll happily sell you. So in the end, when we didn't go up again, Watkins went, Ben Rama went. He bought new players and he said to Tony, don't go. We'll go up next season. And that's what's happened. So it's good that the fans sort of understand. So we berated, not berated, but a lot of fans weren't happy in the early days. We're like, what are you doing? Selling all these players? Oh, no, we're not happy about this. But after we'd sold like the 15th player and they sort of bought a player better after that every time, the fans calmed down a little bit and said, actually, I think you probably know what you're doing. We're going to leave you to it. We trust you now. And so it's quite a good relationship we've got with our owners, and like I said to you, that they pick up the phone, they're down the pub with us. Thomas Frank came down the pub about a year ago. He came down, he said, I want to be on your podcast. I said, only if you come down the pub. We only do it down the pub. He said, all right then. So he turned up down the pub.
Really?
3 hours he's down there. Yeah, 3 hours down the pub. You listen, check it on Pride of West London. Just check it out. Full podcast. There's 2 parts of it. And he sat there and he told us everything. He told us about players who were going to leave, players that you weren't happy about, all this kind of stuff. We were like, well, I'm not sure you should be saying this, but he was totally frank with us, and it was really, really good. And I think that those are the kind of things that actually make us quite different. And we've said, look, coming up to the Premier League, we don't want to change any of that. We don't want to change. I mean, like I said to you, I was on Martin Allen, was on the phone to him. He came down to one of our events, a couple of years ago. He was brilliant, but we knew him from, when he was managing us, 15 years ago. And, we used to call players up and take them down the pub and do interviews with them. And that's what Brentford has always been like. I know things have changed slightly now, but we're still saying, you need to listen. You're never going to be Chelsea. You're never going to be Arsenal. You're never going to be West Ham. These are big clubs. We're small little Brentford, but we're pushing and we're doing some things that are right. But you need to maintain what's unique about us. And, and so there's certain things that are unique and strange about us, maybe. Just maintain that. Don't try and be Chelsea or Arsenal, because it's just not going to happen. You can have the lovely new stadium and you can entertain your guests and all the other, but you could do all that kind of stuff as well. But don't take away the things that, the fans really like about the club. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'd say it's interesting that sort of money ball approach that they do. Brentford, and I was at Thomas Frank's unveiling through work as when he's first unveiling as Brentford manager, and I remember listening to him at the time and just thinking, no, this bloke's onto something. That he sort of a lot of courage in his convictions, and it's very enjoyable to see. It sort of pay off and pay dividends for Brentford at the moment. It's great to see you doing so well. Thomas Frank and Pontus Jansson, think a lot of both of those players as well. It's good to see him in the league. But Billy, just quickly before we let you go, it's been brilliant having you on the podcast. What's your score prediction for Sunday afternoon, 2:00 kickoff at the London Stadium?
Oh, listen, this is difficult because I've not even done our podcast yet, and we normally do it on that, so I haven't had a time to think about it. I was pretty bold with the Liverpool one. I actually went, we're going to go 2-2 with that one. Everyone went, I'm a little bit more confident about us now that we've just seen what we're going to do, but I know it's going to be really tough. And Martin Allen has schooled us really hard on what a good side you are, and the players that you've got. And I know you've got some great players. Like I said to you, check it out. Pride of West London will be out Thursday morning. But I'm still going to go with a confident air to myself, and I'm going to say we're not going to lose. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. 1-1 to Brentford,
draw.
that is.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah. 1-1 draw from Billy there. James and Reese, just before we let Billy go. Reese, what's your score prediction for that Bees game?
I'm going to say 3-2 to West Ham.
3-2 to West Ham. James? Normally helps when you unmute your mic, mate.
Sorry, baby was screaming in the background. So turned it off. I was going to go 3-2, but I won't go the same as Reese. I'll go 4-2. I think there'll be lots of goals in this one. Yeah.
Blimey. Exciting stuff. Well, I'm going to go a little bit more cagey then. And I'm going to go 2-1 to West Ham United. Well, look, Billy Grant there, podcaster and blogger from the Beesotted platform. Billy, it's been great having you on. Thanks so much for joining us ahead of that game on Sunday afternoon at London Stadium. Brilliant to see Brentford doing what they're doing in the Premier League. Look forward to that game. Welcoming them to the London Stadium for the first time on Sunday.